I'm going to be talking to my amazing wife for life, my best friend, who just seems to keep adding accessories on. Obviously, 14 years ago this year, we launched a little-known success story called Sink the Pink back at Bethnal Green Working Men's Club. Little did we know it would go on to be such a beast. One thing that you've always been there doing is raising the drag family. And obviously you've gone on now to have a beautiful son. And I would love to talk to you, Ames, about how raising that drag family has equipped you for motherhood.
They're very similar, actually. So thank you for having me, everyone. You know, I've always been a drag mother. My cousin Jacob came out to me really young, so I've always been his most staunch supporter. And then I studied performing arts with really confident women and men in leotards. And then I met you, and the rest is history. And I've always been maternal, and I want to make the world safe and loving and provide that space. And I care really deeply about women, so care about righting injustice.
Do you think, because as long as I've known you, you're a magnet to those queer kids and those kids that come from broken families, and you've always been, you know, you were that for me, may I add, and I've seen it. Well, I mean, you've called yourself the coming out service many times before, so what do you think it is about you? I mean, other than this camp extravaganza that we see before us, but what is it about you, do you think, that makes people feel safe to find a safe space within you?
I suppose it's tricky to say about your self, but we talk a lot about chosen family, and many young queer kids came to Pink, moved to London looking for their chosen family, and that's something I'll always be so proud of, that we've been a family to so many. And then I think moving back to Kent, starting a queer venue and a Pride and running a women's arts festival, it's like I can live to provide queer and female safe spaces, which is like my ultimate fulfillment in my soul. So, and then also growing an actual live human. So it's kind of living my truth. It's just what I do. I try and look after myself within that and put self-care in my diary like it's a really important thing, because I think you have to really protect yourself when you're a family for others. So that motherhood role in drag and real life it's key. And yeah, having you, you know, we are family, so it's that support network and being there for our crew.
How do you protect yourself though? Because I mean, I obviously cannot relate to being a mother, but I can. Drag queens are, it's a lot, and it's wonderful, but having a lot of people relying on you is a lot to take on. So how do you protect yourself and make sure that you, because obviously you can't be the amazing force of nature that you are unless you're feeling great about yourself, right?
Yeah, I think, well, in early motherhood, my self-care just like went out the window, and I just wasn't looking after myself. I didn't sleep for more than an hour for more than 3 years, you know that. So I lost my normal routine. So when I'm in routine, I'm really good to myself so that I can be there for others. But I have learned to put self-care in my diary as if it's a meeting, and just be like, you have to stop and have a bath. You have to do yoga. You have to meditate, because unless you're protecting yourself, you can't be there for others. And it took me a while to learn that. And then that all went out the window in motherhood. But it's just checking in with people like you, with my mom, like knowing that I've got, you know, I kind of have this analogy of being in a castle, and I can let the drawbridge down to people that I love and want in there with me. But then I can close it again and know that I'm safe, because especially in lockdown, it's been this weird time of, you know, checking in with yourself and knowing that you're safe.
You're so right. I think actually lockdown, I mean, I feel like we've spoken probably more than ever before. And and also I'm connecting more with drag queens, because I think that we spoke about chosen family, and we're all separated from our families right now, but queer kids that came to London to find that chosen family, to then have that completely removed is devastating for a lot of them, right? Have you found that? Have you found, especially in Margate, because you're such a sort of matriarchal figure for all the queer kids down there, how's that?
It's really hard. I think I carry a lot of guilt about our early Sink the Pink family, because I feel like I'm not checking up on them regularly enough. But then moving to Margate was the first thing I'd done entirely for myself. So Sink the Pink getting really successful was, I don't know, I started to feel a bit useless, because I'm really good at grassroots things and I love things in their infancy. And then it was hard to leave London, but then moving to Margate and then forming this queer family here, I'd read about homophobic attacks in Margate where really horrific things had happened, and it broke my heart. And I knew that I needed to bring what we'd created down to the seaside and bring that energy down here. And over time I've let go of that guilt, but I feel like the early Sink the Pink energy is down here now. There's like queer kids' lives that I can now be a part of, and there's chosen family that I have here in Margate, Jackie and Ted and Alex Noble and Han and Kez, and there's like other queer parents. So it's like our early East London fam all down here now as well.
And you've led that as well. I remember when you first moved down to Margate and I came down for my first trip, and I remember thinking, wow, I don't know if this is, it didn't feel very queer. Let's just put it that way. And then fast forward to the last Margate Pride that you put on, and I honestly, I don't know if I've ever been more blown away at our Pride, because it was all along the seafront. It was so powerful, and you must be so blown away by that, because the impact is on a street level. When we've done stuff before, it's in a club, we're packed away, but this was, we were basically face to face with UKIP, and so, and at the same time, you were breastfeeding. I always remember that you were breastfeeding at the same time. So that's so much as a mother to take on.
When Gemma was just saying about breastfeeding behind our float in London Pride, that was me, because Rafi had the shits, if I'm allowed to swear, that day, and he just had Pride, and it's like, what can you do? And the only thing that was settling him was my boob. So I was on the float holding him, just still like, with a rainbow, and yeah, he pretty much breastfed the whole journey down the hill. But it's just I love it. I'm so proud. It's that kind of like that community connection is. It early Sink the Pink, and that energy it's so, people just drink it up. And I think when we first started a Pride down here, people were like, oh, is that, someone said, don't people throw stones at your house? Like, people have this assumption down here, like it was quite Nigel Farage back then. Like it's gone on a journey, and we have the Labour Council now, and it's sort of changing. But my goodness, it was a scary place to live 8 years ago, and to be in part of that change and start a Pride is like the ultimate kind of like, I'm doing my bit, at least in gender equality and in championing queer culture down here.
Well, I feel like you've done that. I feel like we both did it in creating a safe space with Sink the Pink, in which you've taken that energy with Margate Pride, but also in Margate, because of the size of Margate, you've been able to actually change its narrative, which is phenomenal, So how do you, people, and we always get asked this, like, how do you create a safe space?
It's all I want, to create a safe space. Yeah. And it's like creating a platform for queer freedom and self-expression and lovely, nurturing, comfortable, safe. Like we've always done with Sink the Pink, when we'd see baby versions of us coming in the club, and we'd be like, oh, they're us. And it was about, so they can be safe and silly and have fun. And I've always taken that responsibility really seriously, just like you. We're serious about fun.
Well, I remember you just made me remember something when we started doing gigs, and we got booked for a gig at Loughborough University. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
In fact, tell the story. It was a sport, and basically we went out on the stage, various degrees of draggery, and we were met with a serious amount of hostility. Tell the story, Amy, and how you dealt with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't a nice crowd. They were really kind of laddie, and then I think I was probably one of the only cis women there, and I sort of have you guys back. It was like the early drag scene where you know, a lot of kids haven't seen anything like this. A lot of them are 18-year-olds who've left home, maybe from a homophobic town, and moved to a university, and they haven't seen anything queer. So there was this sort of lads group, and they kept like waving at one of our queens and then kind of doing the like wanker sign, and it was like getting really aggressive. And I saw our queen get really, really upset and have to leave the stage. So I just jumped off the stage and just like took him aside with my arm around him and just talked him through it, and just said, what's bothering you about seeing that these beautiful drag queens stage? Oh, it's just, well, that wouldn't happen where I'm from. And he had all this like pent up masculine energy that he probably really fancied her, let's be honest, because she's super hot. And I think I just talked him through it and just said, well, there's some security guards over there that could ask you to leave and take you home, or you could just roll with this and watch my lovely friends up there having a brilliant time and go on that journey with us. And look, all your friends from university are having a great time. And it was kind of like really bringing it back to that energy level of like, what is it that you're finding a problem here? And I don't think he expected to be confronted by someone he'd just been watching on stage in such a way. I think I literally crowd surfed off the stage, didn't I, to get down to him. But it was like he was having selfies with the drag queen at the end. So on that level, like
fear and confusion, it just it makes people react in such a strange way, doesn't it? I think we faced it head on. I think the way to do it is attack it with love at all times.
Yeah, always.
I mean, obviously Raf's young. He's a young, wonderful, self-expressive child. How have you ever thought forward about combining your drag family with Raf and the family that you built in Margate now? Have you thought about that moment? Because I think about it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we do like drag story times, and there are things that he's a part of that he always says happy Pride, like it was one of his first words, because he's like gone to so many marches and prides. And it's a really beautiful full circle, because he is my truly first safe space, and he's given back to me what I've been given to others for years. So he keeps me really present, and he makes me want to make the world even more magical for him and his generation. So I think that journey, I've learned so much, and to have all of my queer community in my life, to have Livy around, to have other queer mothers nearby, and then to also have him backstage at a Sink the Pink, and like John Sizzle's doing a tuck. I can't remember that at the Roundhouse. I was breastfeeding in your dressing room, and there's like drag queens like doing a tuck. And it just I want this culture to be normal to him, obviously, because it's wonderful, and how lucky he is to grow up in our world, and that he can continue the journey of, even if it's just like, this is just normal, that is the kind of tolerance that we want to get to, where it's just like, yeah, this is normal, let's deal with something else. But of course, until we need to deal with this, otherwise we're providing a platform for his generation to be more tolerant.
Well, we could carry on talking about this forever, but that's our time. So I love you. I want to go. I want to get in all those apps behind you, but yeah, I'll see you soon.